Okay, guys, so that was the ATP Weekly. Basically, you can finish it off right here. Everything was in the video. You already know who won, you already know who lost, you already know who's injured, who is the new coach of Holger Rune. But no, of course, we're going to be here for like the next hour or so with Mario. Hello, Mario, and yeah, how did you enjoy all the ATP action this week?
Hi. As for what happened this week, I have to say that I always enjoy watching any kind of tournament of tennis action. But so basically, I enjoyed it almost like almost every week. But yeah, we've seen some interesting things. A lot of tournaments, 3 events going on. All of them with some kind of stories and things to watch. Let's say that in Tokyo, for example, we had a lot of let's call those results kind of surprising, at least in terms of ranking in the first rounds. Even if in the end the champions, we can't really call him a surprise at all. And also the finalists. I mean, he is a player that has always some good weeks here and there in the season. Even if I would say that there have been a lot of things, but I don't want to to say something too early. So I think that we can just start from the Tokyo Champions, since it's been the biggest tournament of the week. Talking about Shelton, after the US Open, it hasn't been like after the Australian Open. The 2 big slam runs, the US Open, he got even further because he was in the semi-final. And this time he backed up really, really well, going to the Asian tournaments and doing really well in Shanghai, first of all. And then in Tokyo, let's say finally winning the first title, but not because, he still would have had a lot of time to do it anyway. But given that we are talking about a player who made his top 20 debut, who reached the Grand Slam quarterfinal and then a semi-final, so it is kind of fitting that he has now also an ATP Tour title to his name, and happening it in Tokyo this week feels like a reward for the good result he had, because a Grand Slam semi-final and then a Masters quarterfinal, losing it for really, really nothing against Korda. And then this feels like it's fair and well deserved for what we have seen in the past month or so from him, and also getting him to the top 15. We are probably going to talk about how far he can go, but it's a ranking that he is kind of suiting his level of tennis, because top 15, especially on hard courts, is one of the very, very top right now. And so I think that having him high in the ranking is it's fair too.
Yeah, and basically, even if he, I don't know, loses first round at the Australian Open, also drops all these challenger points, which he's gonna drop
Mhm.
anyway. Knoxville, Charlottesville, and whatever the third title was that he won last year. Of course, becoming the youngest player to win three challengers in a row. 3 weeks in a row. And even if he drops all of that, and well, the challengers he probably will, because he won't be playing challengers. Surely, he can't without a wildcard to a bigger event. But even if he loses at the Australian Open, like he wouldn't fall out, outside the top 20, maybe 25 if there are like more players with higher ranking points by the time we get to Australia. So that's really amazing for him. The fact that he's not going to be as reliant on that one huge score in the rankings as we thought, a couple of months back. The fact that Shelton also had these runs at slam level, I also think that the pressure of getting his first title, like it wasn't fully there, because he simply had such huge runs before. I mean, the equivalent to a title, let's say, the quarterfinals at the Australian Open, semifinals at the US Open, in many ways bigger than a 500 title. Even the semifinal at the
Mhm.
US Open gives you 720
Yeah.
points, and in general, Shelton is a big stage player. He's a big stage animal, you can even call it. I mean, anytime you get this guy on like a huge event against a high quality player, big crowd, he's probably gonna deliver, or at least he's gonna be more focused and motivated than usual. And yeah, that was a stunning week. And generally speaking, his game has really come through a major revamp in the past 2 or 3 months. I mean, in the way that he's returning without
Mhm.
going for too much anymore, in the way that he's able to just play patient tennis, also able to sustain any longer hitting with his backhand, which he wasn't able to do before, really. And yeah, right now he's actually surviving in the long rallies. He knows when to make the opponent play, which of course he demonstrated the best in the semis. Obviously, not his best match of the week. That would probably have to come down to the one against Paul. And there were some really wild affairs with him. Obviously, mostly the Giron match, and also Daniel in the first round, and even maybe Jordan Thompson in the second round. But the most important thing is that Shelton came out on top in all of that. And yeah, I mean, the question is in the title, so we might as well even answer that. How far can Ben Shelton go? I mean, honestly, next year, if he's able to even save, I don't know, 50% of his Australian Open points, he's gonna have a large chunk of the season where he's not defending anything. So fighting for like a top 10 spot or something, maybe. I don't know. It is not out of the question. Probably a lot will depend on how much he can actually sort of save during the grass and clay court swing, because this year they were awful. And
Yeah.
even if they are just a tiny bit better, he will be gaining. But if he's only gaining a tiny bit, then he might actually not have enough to reach these sort of heights. But obviously, he's like the well. I mean, obviously, I said obviously that maybe you're not gonna agree, but like he has to be the American with the highest ceiling on tour right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think yes. I really liked also the fact that this week it hasn't really mm, been always perfect. It hasn't always been a spectacular level all the time, all the matches. But he really dig deep, and found a way to come out as the winner. And it's nice to see also, because it's also a big improvement also, comparing it from the, let's say, first part of the year, excluding the Australian swing. I remember also a lot of matches in which I thought that he could have done something more, also to try to stay neat. I mean, for example, I remember when he lost on grass to Musetti, must be Queens. One of those matches, which probably today he would be able um, to fight better. Not only speaking about a tactical point of view, but also as a state of mind. Don't let things slip out of his hands, even when he's down in the score. Then of course we have to talk about, I don't know, opponents maybe feeling pressure in some moments, starting to not hit that well. But he has been able to uh, found out even a small detail and use it to still stay in the match. For example, in the semi-final against Giron. Yeah, I always like watching these kind of things, because when you have a perfect week, always is going your way. Um, it happens. It can happen to, I would say, a lot more player than what actually happened to him this week. When you're facing a lot of troubles, some matches the level is not up there comparing to your best performances of the year, because he played a couple of, at least of a bad starts. And still he has been able to stay alive, and then to come out not only as a winner in some of these matches, but also to get that trophy in the end. And so that's really been important for me, also after the results he had, um, especially at the US Open earlier. So I'm really, let's say, positive right now about him and his chances to. I think that he should be able to, if he does well in Australia, he should be able to aim to a top 10 spot, given the points he has earned lately. Um, I don't want to fly too high, but I would say that given the ranking he has earned, some runs that he had, a goal can be fighting for a place to the next year's, say, ATP finals. Can be an ambitious but reasonable goals, considering what we have seen, at least on the hard court this year. Then of course there's a little bit of a question mark how better he will be on, for example, on the clay. Even if I really like the fact that he played a lot of weeks, a lot of tournaments on clay in Europe this year, because sometimes players who are not familiar with the surface don't like it, try to to skip some events, to focus a bit more on other parts of the season. And he had the right attitude, so I'm positive right now.
Yeah, he kind of had it easy because like the Australian Open gave him this comfort where he was around the top 50 and he could basically play what he wants for the next 6 months. So he did go to clay, grass. Perhaps if he was like at 80 or something, he would do the Chris Eubanks or Alexander Vukic sort of way, where he travels to South Korea. But yeah, definitely it was a good decision. I think someone who really showed that in recent years was Nakashima as well, who at first was just abysmal on clay, and then he actually becomes a very solid force. I mean, he reaches the major final this year, his best result of the season by a country mile. But yeah, Matthew also said some interesting things here about the intimidation that he can, cause to his opponents, and definitely the personality, which is both very entertaining to watch as a viewer. Can definitely like against Tiafoe, right? We made it a big storyline. I mean, that was how most people read the match. That Foe was sort of overwhelmed by what Shelton is doing on the court, like by his natural presence. These were two guys who like to be the showman, the sort of the one player on the court who takes up all the attention, and suddenly there was no space for two of them. So yeah, definitely it can win matches. That recency bias question that Matthew had, that was basically what I was referring to earlier, saying that like he has to have the most potential down the line. Korda is like the only one I'm maybe doubting myself on. ATP finals next year, I feel like a lot is going to depend on the US Open, right? Like 700 to 20 points. So I like his chances to get to the, let's say, the top 10 before the US Open, but I think a lot can depend
Yeah.
on that one event. But, we'll see. It's not the most important thing in the world anyway. I mean, theoretically, he can also fight for the ATP finals this year, but that would basically require him to win Paris. I mean, there is another way, like,
Yeah,
let's say win Paris, win
yeah,
Vienna,
he has, yeah,
finalist in
exactly.
Paris, but then he also has a 250 after that. After Paris, I can't remember if he signed up for Metz or Sofia, but either of these. Because this year, this is an important, by the way, change. If anyone hasn't noticed that, we have one more week of ATP 250s after Paris. So Paris will
Yeah.
not be the last opportunity to qualify for the ATP finals, which could really shake things up. Because when you look at the ATP race, it's 250 points. I mean, that can honestly change everything. So yeah, we might have this situation where like even after Paris, we're definitely not going to be sure. I also heard that Fritz lost 90 points because of withdrawing late from Beijing or something. So it's going to be quite hilarious if that's why he doesn't qualify. But that's a bit of an off topic. But yeah, Shelton definitely. I'm not really counting him as like a real shot for the ATP finals this year. But
No.
well, Paul
It's
and the Minor,
difficult,
I'm
but
still, yeah. Paul and the Minor, I'm still looking at as like, okay, these guys could actually make it. Like a decent run Vienna, Basel, good run Paris, and they are actually in contention. But yeah, Shelton, and he's also in a way the beneficiary of this poor patch that the players ranked
yeah,
in the
at
race
this
between
point,
7 and
I,
13
I
get,
was
right?
just about to say
Yeah.
that at this point I am so doubtful about who will, will be, let's say, the eighth player.
Hmm.
Because I think that Zverev should be safe if he capitalizes, I would say, a favorable draw
If they keep
in
playing like
Vienna, for
this,
example. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
Mario, if they keep playing like this,
Yes.
3,415 might be enough.
Yeah. But at least talking about that eighth spot, uh, I'm so doubtful right now. Uh, it's so difficult. Mm, to, because any of them, for some reason, well, for Urkac is not out of form because he has just won a Masters, but um, it's also a bit difficult. For example, imagine that he has to basically make another round like that. He can, but it's not that easy. Even if the guys ranked before him, ahead of him, are not really, uh, let's say let's say, in a good state. It's so confusing, but it's fun at the same time. Let's say like that.
Yeah, neither of the players ranked between 7 and 13 reached the semifinals this week, so basically the status quo more or less has been maintained. There were a few players who like really missed opportunities, and I think we're
Mm.
gonna get to that with like talking about more about Tokyo. So in the final, we of course get Aslan Karatsev. So yeah, just the usual Aslan Karatsev peaking sort of run.
Yeah, even if today I've been a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
In general, I haven't found this final as a fun match. Um, First set, I don't know. It hasn't really been the best set of tennis I've seen recently, but at least still having a quite close affair in the second. Probably I would have thought in some kind of reaction. but no, it went straight forward since then. And but overall, it's been a very good week also, because beating straight sets de Minaur. Who was
Zhang,
Tiafoe?
Mochizuki.
Okay, not really
Info.
playing amazing lately, but still, he had lost two times against him in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good week, but yeah, we are prepared to having some of these Aslan Karatsev weeks every season. Let's say that he equaled the number of semifinals he reached in 2021.
Okay.
Even if, yeah, so that speaks that at least in terms of being in final stages of the tournament, he's kind of is up there, even if this year he lacks a title, because 2021 we had that slam semi, we had the Dubai title, so we are not there in terms of the results, but still, he got closer than he was in 2022, despite getting that 250 in Sydney. So yeah, a good week that certifies the fact that he is now close to fighting for have a seat at the Australian Open, and good for him.
Yeah, interesting that he's already lost to Shelton twice, despite both occasions it seemed like it's gonna be a very tight match. Both occasions it really wasn't. About today's final, I cannot really speak because I woke up at 5 a.m. for a challenger final in Shenzhen. Then I went to bed, and then it was 7-5 for one when I finally was awake to watch it. So yeah, not much I can say, but of course, yeah, Karatsev peaking, as you said, it's a bit of a regular occurrence. I mean, it's irregular, but at the same time, it's gonna happen 2 or 3 times a
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah,
And he actually has been fairly consistent the past few months. I don't think he's actually the
yeah.
most unpredictable player on tour at the moment. Anytime he plays like a big name, it's going to be a tough match. He never really loses, I don't know, 6-2, 6-2 to someone good. It's mostly where he doesn't shine. It's probably when he is actually the favorite. When he is the guy you're expecting to do something. That's not when Aslan Karatsev is going to be dangerous. Two semifinalists here, very different stories, but also
Mm.
both extremely unexpected. Marcos Giron, we already said something, just briefly mentioned that match against Shelton, but to recap for it for the viewers, 7-6, 5-2 double breakup, Marcos Giron, and honestly playing like the tennis of his life this week, 100%. And then he just chokes it away. Shelton plays a very smart brand of tennis again, patient, out rallies Giron eventually, but
Yeah.
certainly quite disappointing for Giron, especially with the way he was hitting his forehand this week, which usually he doesn't really have an exceptional shot. This week he had. And Mochizuki a different way, but also featuring an incredible win against Fritz, 2-5 down in the third, plays like the best game of his life to break back, and also beats Popirin after that, which I thought was maybe even more impressive, because backing up a win like that, but then
Mhm.
he loses pretty straightforwardly to Karatsev.
Yeah, it's starting from Mochizuki. It's been a very very nice story. Also because he was the local player, not
Yeah.
having won an ATP match till this week, and then also, yeah, getting the first win. It was first nice also because he had that moment after the match. It was an emotional moment. And you already kind of felt that, okay, it's a nice story from this tournament, but then it went on, because that second round match against Fritz was really quite something, because and losing 6-love the first set, and then you are like, oh, and then suddenly things becomes tight. For Taylor in the match, and then drops the second set. In the third, it seems like he has kind of solved the puzzle, but then that incredible comeback. It's really been entertaining, and I know some some Fritz fans can be disappointed from this, but it gave us a really nice story. Disappointing from Fritz also because of all the what we were saying about Turin, because with Holger Rune out from Stockholm, he really had a huge chance to surpass him without even winning the whole tournament, and that's also the reason of the biggest disappointment from him. But talking about Shintaro, he had really a great week, and I also, watching on Twitter, a lot of accounts, people were following at least his scores because they wanted to know how far he would have gone in the tournament. So it's been a nice story and a nice player to follow this week. And about Giron, he was playing incredibly well. He has also tennis I quite enjoy, I have to say. So it was nice for me watching him doing well. And then that semi-final, he was playing very well, also with the forehand, especially in the first part, in the initial part of the second set. And then he became just a little more tight, and not that much, but just a little bit. And Shelton has really been clever in accepting the fact that he was not having his best day, and playing, let's say, a humble style of tennis, letting Giron hitting long rallies, in numbers became the numbers of long rallies became higher, and Giron was not able anymore to do that last push to finish the points. And so it kind of felt like he really missed an opportunity. Final against Karatsev still would have been playing, and probably Karatsev would have started as the favorite probably that match. But at some point it really felt like could have been his week, but then in the end, we know what happened. But it's been a nice tournament overall. I would say that it's been a very nice session swing this year. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, Giron 30 years old, Shelton 21, and yet it felt like Giron has so much less experience because he kind of does. For him it was the biggest match of his career. For
Yeah.
Shelton, not so much. And then then Giron actually goes up, of course, 5-2. Little bit tighter. I appreciated though how he was reacting to this. Like, he still had this pretty positive attitude. He actually saved 3 set points in a
Yeah.
row right before the tiebreak, and he saved them by, again, just starting to swing very freely, go to the net, work out the points in his style. And that was good to see that despite that he kept fighting. He actually wasn't the fresher player as well in the third, which definitely hurt him. But he was still in it. He had some early break
Yes.
points, so it's not like he ever actually gave up. And it was a commendable effort. But you kind of feel like this might have been his chance, and perhaps even his only chance at a title like that. But who knows? We will see what Marcus Giron will do with this. Just sort of checking the most recent ATP 500 winners, finalists, you can kind of see that it's rare for a guy like Giron to get to an ATP 500
Yes.
final. Same for Mochizuki. Karatsev, he's already been there, actually in one of the most unexpected finals as well against Lloyd Harris. But But Giron, it would be one of the most surprising rounds for sure. Like Gianluca Mager sort of type, and I can't remember who else was also like one of the more random, but there was definitely some. Oh, Andrei Golubiev won Hamburg in 2010 famously. But yeah, and Mochizuki, I don't know if this will continue. You know, the issues with him being a little lightweight and that it still definitely is there, but the way he was just finding the backhands down the line regardless of what happens, and yeah, just playing very
Yes.
positive forward oriented tennis. I think there is a bit of a trend as well with lots of players getting their best wins against Taylor Fritz. Fritz just sort of is one dimensional. He plays the same ball. They get used to it. They start actually overwhelming him, even though they kind of shouldn't. You know, the weight of shot between Fritz and Mochizuki, it isn't really close, but actually it was Shintaro dominating the points late in the third. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of players who got their first wins against, like, first big wins, let's say, against Rublev, Fritz, and the likes, basically. But yeah, speaking of that, maybe the last thing from Tokyo, you hinted at this already, but Fritz, Deminor, and Paul are probably the guys who will be regretting this. Deminor and Paul, honestly, they lost to, I mean, Paul lost to Shelton, Deminor lost to Karatsev, so they cannot be overly disappointed, but just with everyone ranked between 7 and 11 in the ATP race, it felt like there's a real possibility for one of these guys to pick up the 500 points and then, you know, be very close to a Turin spot. They didn't really take that. Fritz definitely the one who has a lot more to
Yeah.
regret, because if you only need to beat Mochizuki and Popperin to make up some very
Yes,
important
exactly.
points, Rune, Hurkacz already out, Rud as well. Yeah, you just cannot really do that. But he was also 5-2 up, of course, in that match. So he is basically the one that lost the most in Tokyo, I think.
Yeah, lost the opportunity because he was, he lost a match which he was really close to win, because he was also closer to the eighth spot and because he had
Bagel
a good
first
chance.
set as well.
Yeah, also exactly. So of course Fritz is the most disappointing one among the three. Talking
Yeah.
about using his chance to Turin, probably. Yeah, I still would say that probably between Paul and Deminor, probably Deminor just a little bit more. Yeah, but still you can lose to Karatsev. So it's not really him losing a big chance. I think that the guy who lost the biggest chance is of course Taylor Fritz. Another one who could have gained some point was Rude. Probably the way he managed to force his gear on. He was 4-2 up in the second set, could have at least forced the decider in that match. Yeah, I would say that I was more focused in, let's say, Fritz and Casper Ruud in this tournament, because at some point we started talking about Deminor and Paul, but in my opinion, just because those guys had already lost. And so suddenly it kind of became, if they win the title,
Yeah.
they get closer and closer.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't, very, very, very big chance like, Fritz had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we only started talking about them once Fritz and Ruud lost, and that's when it became a big chance. Before the event, we weren't saying, "Oh, so tell Tommy Paul, if he wins this event, he gets 500 points." No,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Casper Ruud, it's funny
Hurkacz,
because I
same thing,
actually
because he
almost
was
forgot about
coming
him.
he was coming from the Shanghai title and played
Yeah,
Zhang.
Hurkacz counts with Fritz and Ruud,
Yeah,
basically.
he
Yeah.
he already lost to won against Zhang at the deciding set tiebreak or something like that. It was 6-4 in the third, probably, but it was a really tight affair. No, it was deciding set tiebreak in Shanghai, and then it was a reverse score this time in Tokyo. So
Yeah.
yeah, I still don't know even about Urkac if he really it really is a big opportunity loss, given the fact that in the race before Shanghai, so 3 weeks ago, he was a bit far.
No, it wasn't like a big opportunity loss because he was in the first
mm,
round against Zhang, and
yeah,
like all the other guys were still there. So yeah, Vegas Dev speaking some truth in the comments. Yeah, and I think with that we might head to Antwerp and Stockholm. So these were the two European 250s. Yeah, maybe let's start with this one in Stockholm. Gal Monfils, 37-year-old, but is he actually 37? I think he might have lied somewhere on his papers because the way he was covering the court against Pavel Kotov, especially in the final, and Kotov actually made him do that. For a while, I thought that maybe Monfils will have to be like a bit more aggressive, a bit more imposing to win that match. He actually didn't. He just did it, in his own style. But yeah, the defense from him was just something that Kotov had not faced this week, and it still took it still took such a long match. It took saving 3 breakpoints in a row at 5-all in the second. It took basically Kotov being 2 points away from the match in the second set
yeah,
tiebreak. But Monfils eventually managed to prevail, and yeah, he's like the oldest ATP Tour winner since Federer, I think, in Basel. He's the oldest champion in Stockholm history, of course, and all that stuff. I mean, basically, since the North American hardcourt swing, he has been actually definitely much better than I thought he would ever be again.
yeah. At some point, could have felt like mm, it was really difficult to see him again at this
Yeah.
level, but what to say, his athleticism is there are no words to describe it, and we feel his age when we are talking about some injuries, even if he hasn't really been that lucky even when he was younger, in terms of his injury status, and but when he is fit on the court, well, he moves, he covers the court incredibly well, and he makes you work, 3, 4, 4, 5 times to win the point. And times you can have an amazing day, an amazing set of tennis, and can come out um, without losing it. But in the end, he also makes you play in a way that it's not maybe that sustainable over the time. You kind of going to have some poor games in which you miss something, and he's also able not only to defend the court really well, but also to to find some brilliant moments in the match here and there. Yeah, it's been a story that, in total honesty, I was not thinking to telling about a Monfils title, at least this year, and I don't know about next year. But when I was thinking about the remaining tournament, Monfils was not on my in my cards to to win a title, even if you never can count him completely out, and he proved that today and this week in general. Well, great stuff, and it's also yeah, nice. Elina Svitolina won her first title as a mother, and he now won his first title as a father. There are a lot of nice things about him winning again, and also the fact that he is a player um, who who is great for the game, also because he is able to entertain a lot of fans, and it's nice that he's still able to find these kind of weeks.
Yeah, he actually has a pretty poor record in ATP finals. I mean, up to
Yeah.
12 out of 22, 12, 22, sorry, not 12 out of 34. If you, I mean, that's how
Yes.
I should have said it. So 12, 22, that's not great. But 5 out of 6. The last 5 out of 6. So maybe he's getting better in finals with all the experience.
Yeah, the
He,
old wine.
yeah, this was his first in 21 months. Obviously, the first after these serious injuries, and yeah, also. Can't remember what else I was about to say. But Gael Monfils was the champion, obviously, with a protected ranking. I wanted to say that this never really felt like a possibility to me because he basically didn't play between the US Open and this. I mean, he only showed up at Laver Cup in a match
Mhm.
that was more memorable for the discussion about
Yeah.
the format of the event between him and
Yes.
Felix rather than his actual tennis. So that's why it didn't seem like a certainty that his US Open sort of North American hardcourt swing form will continue, but it actually did. And yeah, the guy he beat in the final, a qualifier, Pavel Kotov, uh, what a week. And also, he will get to his career high of 81. Definitely had a very real shot in the final. And yeah, the way he was hitting his forehand basically throughout 7 matches, super flat stroke, just pierces through the court. No one really could handle it in any shape or form. Chris Eubanks was the only one, I think, to take a set other than Gael Monfils. And eventually he loses, but of course that's the biggest career run for Kotov. He had previously reached one semifinal in Marrakesh, and he actually has a pretty nice feat this year because he has reached at least the quarterfinals on every surface. I wonder how
Yeah.
many players like this are on the tour.
Oh yeah. Well, he really um, played well. I was watching. I remember I watched the entire match, for example, against Griekspoor,
Hmm.
and also today's final, and some other things here and there, and also from the year. He's playing. I would say quite consistent here because he also had the quarterfinal on grass, which you mentioned. Say he got quite far at least once on each surface this year. And now finding a final, he was 2 points away from winning his first ATP title. He hits the baseline shots really really well. Um, and that really made playing against him uncomfortable for all the opponents he faced this week, which were not. He hasn't faced a bad opposition at all because maybe some of them not in their greatest form, but he still beat a lot of solid guys who had won a title in the previous 52 weeks. All them. Sonego not anymore because the title he got was 1 year ago. But Sonego, Griekspoor, Eubanks. It's been really a positive week for him, and also projecting him to a ranking in which he can try to start entering some more things, not in danger anymore for the I think for the Australian Open cut, because now that he got to 81 in the ranking, it should be safe. So yeah, an important week, probably going to have some little regrets, at least in terms of the fact that he was closing the score to win the title. But overall, thinking about the whole week, starting as a qualifier, it's been very, very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And what else did we have? Do we have any big stories in Stockholm this week? Other than that, Holger Rune losing in the second round to Kecmanovic, and we can sort of already tell you that Rune is also playing Kecmanovic next week in Basel in
Yeah.
the opening round. So that was probably the other big one. What's up with him? Is it still some sort of injury issues? And
Well,
yeah,
given that
also. Mhm.
I still had in my eyes the match against Nakashima in Shanghai, I was kind of thinking, oh, it's looking better because I still had that fresh memory. and it could have been worse than that, honestly. Yeah, I watched that match, and he started playing incredibly aggressive, more than usual. It was paying off at some moments, but also a lot of mistakes at other parts of the match. Probably also because he wasn't feeling comfortable in staying in the baseline rally with Kecmanovic, which maybe can put you, let's say, a lot of pressure when you stay with, from the baseline, hitting forehand, backhand, these kind of rallies against him. He hasn't done that bad considering the period he is leaving, of course, because we know that he can do better than this. We know that he's now working with Boris Becker. He keeps saying that he now is fit, that he just has to improve his level. Um, I kind of want to believe him, even if um, you know how tricky it is with this kind of back issues, and this kind of stuff. But yeah, I still would think that we have to say in this now couple of weeks what's going to happen. He defends a lot of points because he was finalist in Basel last year and won that Paris Master. So he's going to, I think, he's going to drop points, because if the form is this, I struggle to see him producing those results. But at least I don't think that this is the most important thing right now, because the most important thing is trying to, testing if there's going to be any kind of progress in terms of the form and the tennis level.
Yeah, the last few minutes I've spent trying to count how many players reached the major quarterfinal on all the surfaces this year, and I actually will give up. I still haven't checked all the guys from Stuttgart, Hertogenbosch, and Queens, but I'm already at about 20. But, it would be like a 25, 30-ish group. Some interesting names include JG Wolf, or I don't know, who else did I expect? Arthur Rinderknecht, Zhizhen Zhang, Mikhail Immer, one is already retired. But anyway, one of them is Pavel Kotov, and it's a pretty nice feat, especially for a guy who, well, was out of the top 100 before this week. Yeah, let's talk about Antwerp then. Honestly, don't have any other thoughts on Rune than you do. Basically, I would say that, yeah, the way I sort of envision Becker in Rune's team, I think it's like Matthew. So like where Christensen still plays the main part and Becker is just sort of fixing stuff. I don't know if that's how it's going to be. That's something we will have to see. There's been a lot of sort of team personal stuff. I mean, stuff not with an A. Sort of changes with Luna recently, and that's not helping, probably given the fact that he's also struggling with the
Yes, also.
injuries and getting back in shape. Only one win since Wimbledon, and it feels like he has to get something going very soon, but actually he's not doing that. There's someone in never mind. Anyway, the European Open then, Antwerp. We had Alexander Bublik winning his third ATP title. This is actually the first time he wins multiple in a year, of course, after Halle. And he managed to beat Arthur Fils in the final. And Bublik posted some ridiculous serving stats this week.
Yeah.
136 out of 148 on first serve. He was actually breaking a lot as well. I think maybe like 11 out of 45 games or something like that, which basically is unplayable when you think about it. He actually still lost a set to Giovanni Pecci Pericard. But yeah, a real display of strength. And he also has an exciting matchup in Basel coming up, playing Ruud in the first round. Whereas sometimes with players you can have this feeling where, okay, he went he went deep 1 week, so likely next time he's not gonna be I don't know, a force, right? But this time I think with Bublik it doesn't really count, and it smells like trouble for Ruud.
Yeah, it smells like trouble, even if, with Bublik, it's always difficult to have a prediction for the following week.
For
But
any week,
well,
for any match.
yeah, exactly. Winless for several weeks, and then he comes out playing incredibly well this week, serving in a ridiculous way. And yeah, when he serves like that, it's, ah, it's super, super, super difficult to do something, and especially if you have not still that kind of level that requires you to to face the best version of Bublik serving and playing freely like he did. um, don't know why watching the draw, before the tournament start, I was feeling that it could have been a Bublik week. And I'm happy because I had this feeling that it came true. But overall, we've seen some nice stuff all the tournament, and from Bublik, that who played incredibly well, and also from Arthur Fields, who reached another final after the one he won in Lyon. Didn't win this one, but still a very, very positive weeks, considering his process is super young, and having starting to have consistent result, and especially consistent performance level, even when there is some loss. And it's of course a very, very good news for him. The match he played against Tsitsipas has been very good. Tsitsipas not in the best moment of his career, but still, it requires you to play very well if you want to come out of the court as the winner. Yeah, that moment in which he had a bit of tension when he was serving for it, but I would say very, very positive weeks in this case for both the finalists of this tournament.
Yeah, Fils had that great win against Tsitsipas. I know this isn't like Tsitsipas' strongest, but that match he actually, I don't think he really had anything really to improve other than the fact that he was again brought down by his own weaknesses. The spin heavy forehand of Fils being tough for his backhand to handle. But yeah, still the youngster actually has a 2-1 record against the top 10 at the moment.
Mm.
It probably will not last because he's playing Medvedev in Vienna round one. But yeah, still very commendable. Of course, the other win being against Ruud in Hamburg. And yeah, Bublik with another one of these unplayable weeks. 3 titles now. He also used to have a pretty poor, what was it, like 0-4 record in finals? And he's getting up there. Obviously, also the only Kazakh player who has multiple titles. Only Golubyev and Kukushkin have 1 title each. And yeah, anyway, we also had Stefanos Tsitsipas in the semis. Anything really there? Still, I guess, an improvement over his last 2 months. I mean, he's still going to get to the ATP finals, but is he going to be a factor there? I guess that's what he's sort of playing for right
Yeah,
now.
it's difficult to imagine right now. Uh, Honestly, yes.
Yeah, the Tomic title already in the chat. He has 2 breakpoints at 4-2. So yeah, he's not really Kazakh, and neither are Golubyev and Kukushkin, right? But representing Kazakhstan, let's say. We're gonna wait for baby Zhukayev to get an ATP Tour title, and then we can have a fully Kazakh player. I think Yevseyev might be Kazakh as well. I'm not actually sure. I think Skatov is Russian though. But anyway, yeah, Tsitsipas, I also don't think he's going to be that much of a factor. Bernie Tomic is currently playing a final in Las Vegas. Definitely deserves to be mentioned on the ATP Weekly. He will serve for the title, and he will have 2 chances as well, so he probably gets it over Tyson Kwiatkowski. And yeah, Maximilian Marterer also in the semis. He was very close to returning to the top 100. I think I chatted about this with Vange because we did the Tsitsipas Fields stream, and sort of just said that basically the guy is just as good as when he was around the top 50 for me. Like, the fact that he has been sitting for a few years at number 120 doesn't actually mean that his quality has disappeared in any way. I think it's just
Yeah.
basically random that he was up there. And great chance to return to the top 100 quite soon. Good patch for the past 3 months. He just gets outplayed by Bublik every time for some reason. I thought it was gonna be a close match.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah, Bublik showed up that well. Yeah, with Bublik, it's a bit like that also. At times you just have to enjoy that he's playing an incredible tennis, and that's the at times that can be really that much to do. But yeah,
Yeah,
overall, I agree with what you just said. Also, when we are talking about that kind of ranking, it can also depend that defending and not defending a couple of weeks result. It doesn't really mean that you have dropped a lot in terms of the tennis quality. It can be, but also it can be different than just like that. We know that the ranking depends on a lot of factors. So yeah, I agree.
how would you describe Martyr's playstyle? Asks Keen. I don't know, just a regular big serving lefty with aggressive ground strokes, pretty good spin on the forehand. More aggressive Yuri Rodionov, if that makes sense. Uh, like if Rodionov only played his aggressive days, that's more or less what Martyr plays like, I think. Anyway, there's I also have to give a brief shout out to two players who earned their first ATP Tour wins in this tournament. So one of them was of course Giovanni Pecci Pericard, the 230, 240
Yeah.
serving monster. With a horrible one-hander, which actually looks pretty good when you don't pressure it all that much. Like when he has time on it, he was able to beat Goffin with it. He was able to beat Carballes Baena. I know indoors not the greatest of wins, but he did get bageled in the opening set and wasn't
Mm.
discouraged. He kept going. Lost to Bublik in free, but still a very nice run. And also because he wasn't even in the qualifying to begin with, he actually got in with
Yeah,
the clear
right.
cup through. Yeah, so that must be an even wilder story. And Marc Leal was probably the one I was even more sort of proud of this week. This wasn't the Marc Leal than in his last 12 challengers. I think reached like one quarter final or something, wasted some good draws. This wasn't that Marc Leal. This was that Marc Leal who, I don't know, really wooed me with his ability in Vilnius last year, or won the challenger in Little Rock earlier this year. This was the guy who serves incredibly well, just keeps going forward, and yeah, just plays a much more composed, calm, collected brand of tennis than he has recently. Beats Munar again. Good draw. Both Pecci Pericard and Leal
Yes.
certainly landed some nice opportunities here, but then also is probably the better player for the most part against Fields. He just can't convert any of his 8 breakpoints, and that was mostly due to how clutch Fields was until the final, saving 18 out of 19.
Yeah, right. But
And
and also credit, because having a good draw is not enough, as we are watching with the guys that are fighting for the Turin spot. So having a nice draw, and then you also have to use it the right way. So credit to those guys. Yeah.
GMP is going to win a Grand Slam. Remember, I told you when it happens. Yeah,
We
Michael
remember.
Agui. I will I will get behind Michael Agui, Keen, but GMP, I don't know. Bernie Tomic, by the way, has just won. And also, John says that the Jakub Bobro Player of the Week this
Yes.
week will be on the WTA side.
Ah.
Um,
Okay.
so we are not choosing it this week, apparently.
We we
Who will
had
that be?
we had two strong candidates, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we had Kotov, right? And also, who else really? Uh,
Uh,
who is the other? I guess Korpach won a WTA title,
yeah.
being outside the top 100. I didn't realize that she was actually outside the top 100. I thought she was like 90, but there could have been a Kerion Joquet pick or Mariano Navone pick. I mean, that
Yeah.
could have been good. Maybe Navone has already had one. I don't know. Bernie Tomic certainly rising as well.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
we could have had Bernie Tomic, but apparently John decided to give it to Tamara Korpach. So Fair enough. I think so far the ladies have been a little underrepresented. And also, yeah, let's just briefly talk about Basel and Vienna. As usual, the two ATP 500s, the same week, events with a lot of tradition. They are the last 500s of the year.
Yes.
One is significantly stronger than the other. It's Vienna. That's mostly because out
Mm.
of the ATP race, you've got players ranked between 3 and 7 in there. So we've got Medvedev, Sinner, Zverev, Rublev, and Tsitsipas as the top 5 seeds. There's a lot of like high quality matchups in terms of Medvedev fields in the opening round. Tsitsipas team, we were almost gonna get it in Antwerp, but Yannick Hanfmann stopped it. We actually get it here. There's Shelton Sinner as well, the rematch for Shanghai,
Yeah,
which I think is
especially
one of the most
considering
important ones.
the form of the players involved,
Uh-huh.
because you have, you have Sinner who won in Beijing. You have Shelton. They are playing against each other. Shelton
Yeah.
winning in Tokyo. Medvedev is a recent Grand Slam finalist. Rublev played well in Shanghai, so it looks like there are also, the players ranking higher from that tournament are also in quite form. While the other one, it's a little bit of, we have to see. We have to see about among them, because we have Rune, we have talked about his period, we have Casper Ruud, we have Fritz. So yeah, we have to see how these top seeds in Basel are going to perform. And there's Ogier Aliassime, who took a wild card. He finally won back-to-back matches in Tokyo, even if he lost pretty straightforward to Giron in the quarterfinals. Well, for different reasons, two very interesting tournaments. Let's say like that, because on one side we have some big names who won titles recently, and seems like they are going to produce good tennis. And from the other side, you have an open draw, in which you kind of feel like a lot of things can happen. Also, some interesting first round clashes in both tournaments. But let's say in Basel, you also feel like, we have a re-edition of that Rune Kecmanovic match, which Kecmanovic won in last week in Stockholm. Bublik coming from a title, we have to see how he does against Ruud, who can struggle, who can, it also depends on Bublik. There are some interesting things in both tournaments, but for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, Vienna is sort of tough to predict because you've got so many strong players, and like everyone also has a really tough draw. So Medvedev plays Fils, Shelton plays Sinner plays Shelton, for example. Whereas in Basel, it's kind of tough to predict because Rune and Ruud are not winning it, so you have to look
Yeah.
elsewhere. Hurkacz is playing Basel for the first time, like he was always in Vienna, and I think that's a really nice choice, especially considering that strength of the field. So maybe it's going to be him who's going to benefit. I'm going to make a couple not outrageous calls, but for me, Bublik beats Ruud, and also Ridi beats Ogier Aliassime, 100%. Just bet your house on it. Leandro Ridi
Bet your
beats Ogier
house.
Aliassime. Yes, I'm going to bet my house. Actually, it's not my house yet. No.
Is Medvedev defending a title finally?
He could. I think he is the main favorite. However, with a draw of this
Mm.
quality, if he's gonna play, let's say, Fils Dimitrov, then Safirino Kachanov, that's already really tough. So, but I think he is the main favorite. And also, there was a question from Keen about ATP. Which ATP event outside of the slams would you guys most like to attend? Mario, do you have anything like that? Because personally, like, I don't really have ATP events that I want to attend. An event that I want to attend is the Eastmanning Challenger, and the only one on carpet left. And I'm actually gonna do it next week. So yay for me. Also, all the sort of ITF temples, ITF shrines of like Sharm el Sheikh, Antalya, Monastir. I would love to do a tour of that. Just see a 15K in Monastir, go next week to Sharm el Sheikh, and then next week to what is it talking about? Oh yeah, Antalya, and
Antalya.
maybe also another thing, just a challenger on every continent. That's my life goal. Of course, so far I am at one, and presumably in the next couple of years I'm still gonna be at one. So it's not an easy task. In Africa you only have Tunis right now. Other continents, some of them are very expensive to fly to, but I would probably say that these are the events that I would most like to attend. Yeah.
I have to answer. It's super, super difficult. Talking about ATP tournaments. mm, oh my god. Well, probably I don't know. Also because I'm interested in going also there. I would attend some of these ATP Asian tournaments, which are
Okay.
far from my home, so I can be interesting. Also, maybe making a bit of half and half from tourism and going to watch tennis. Let's say that I would answer like that.
Yeah, I guess on the ATP tour I have like a few places that are maybe more suitable than others, but yeah, generally I can't really say I have any huge favorite that I really want to go to. I'm way more interested in traveling to challengers so far than ATP tour events, so that's part of it. And any challenger is a good challenger, so I don't really care either when it comes to that. I wish I would have been there for the 15K in Las Vegas when Bernie Tomic beat Tyson Kwiatkowski in the final. But anyway, something from Matthew here about reading Agassi's book, probably the autobiography. Open. I want to go back and watch him compete against. Huh. Yeah, if we could go back in time, then there would be some nice answers to that as well, for sure. But I think for now we haven't fully figured out that technology. If we can, then the Terminator might come true.
Exactly.
So maybe I hope that it's not going to happen. Um, anyway, is that it then, Mario? I think we are basically done, right?
Yeah, it can be it. It was a huge amount of stuff today, but
Yeah, we kind of
yeah,
started rushing in the second half because at some point I thought that maybe we were gonna go like an hour and 30 minutes, and we easily could have if we just started dwelling more onto like every semifinalist in Antwerp and every semifinalist
yes, exactly.
in Stockholm. But eventually we sort of give you more of a concise product here. And how is Ayeni losing to Huertas del Pino? Is it Arklon or is it Conor, or does it not matter? I guess it maybe doesn't matter. Yeah, but Curitiba, is it altitude? I don't actually even know. I haven't checked out the events too much. Haven't recorded the show yet, but let me see. Oh, it is altitude. So yeah, Ayeni should not be losing at altitude to that guy. But well, it was Arcon, Huertas del Pino. In case anyone is interested, which Huertas del Pino brother it was. Anyway, that's gonna be it then. And thank you
if we,
guys.
if
Thank you
we
for the
get to
comments.
mention that, it means that
Mhm.
it's we
Yeah, when
get
I
to the
mentioned the
finish line.
Huertas del Pino brothers, I know I have to finish the show, unless it's the Challenger show, because then they actually,
Yes, exactly.
deserve the mention sometimes. I mean, when they reach deep in doubles or in singles, I don't think there was a point really. Oh, actually, there was, because they did get their first major wins in Challengers on the same day last year, so that was a cool moment for Conor and Arclon Huertas del Pino. Yes, that's gonna be it then. And thank you guys for the comments. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Mario, for
Thank you.
being here as usual. And that's the cue to our producer, who I don't know if he's attentive at the moment. Um, I was confused during the show at some point because someone was like literally. I don't know if they were watching us or if John was showing something else
Yes,
on his
exactly.
computer. Yeah, and I got a bit confused. I don't know who the people were either. John is obviously in Monastir. But if he is hearing me, then we are wrapping up the show. Yeah, he shows me a thumbs up, and there's some beautiful scenery behind him. Festival of Lights. So yeah, that's again. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next
Thank
week.
you.
Or yeah.
Bye bye.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.